today's tutorial we're going to work on a baby's hat, and this will fit up to a 1-year-old baby. This is a 31 peg loom. This is just an economy loom that you can find. This is made by Crafting Essentials that you can find on the marketplace, and it's just the second one of the fourth that's inside of a package, so it's the second size up in the fourth. So what I'm doing is I'm making a hat to go with the afghan that I'm making on the DA Loom Affinity loom right here, and this is actually not going too bad, and I want a hat that matches the coloring here. So I'm going to be using the Pipsqueak yarn just like you see, and this is a 100-gram ball and it's a 3.5 ounce, and you only need a portion of this in order to make a baby's hat, and this actually goes in about 45 minutes to be able to make it from start to finish. You're going to need a pair of scissors, you're going to need an empty pen or a yarn guide. I'll show you how to load that, the pick that comes usually with these looms. You're also going to need the darning needle to finish off this project, and you're going to need some wire in order to load up. I also want you to get a piece of paper and just do what I did here, and I want you to go from 1 to 10 and then say fold, and then 1 through 15 and then say end, and as we go through each round we're going to actually check it off as we go. So let's get started on this loom knitting tutorial. The first step we need to do is that we need to get an empty pen, and I've actually referred to this as a styler pen in some videos. All it is, it's an empty pen, and I want the yarn to travel through this empty pen. So in order to get the yarn through, you just take a piece of wire. This is like a jewelry wire that I use to crochet, and I want to fold it in half. So when you cut it, you should be longer than the length of the actual pen, and I want you to fold it off, fold it in half just like that, and I want you to put the yarn, so just open it again and just put the yarn through it like that. Okay, so now the two pieces are out there, the yarn is through there, and I want you to stick it through the top. So this is where I want it to feed out, so I'm going to stick it through the top. Okay, so the wire is now coming out the other side, and I'm just dragging through the yarn just like that. Okay, so now the yarn is out, and I want to create a slip knot, and this will be my first step. So I now just created my slip knot, and it's right here on my fingers, and now I'm looking for the anchor bolt or the anchor peg that's on the outside, and I'm right-handed. So when I'm right-handed, just like so, I want to start with the peg that is on the right side of this. If I'm left-handed, I'm going to want to start on the other side. So I just want to slip that over top of the peg that is on the right-hand side of that peg, like that. So using your styler pen, I want you to move the styler pen or the yarn guide up, just like that, and staying on the inside because the project grows on the inside. Staying on the inside, I want you to jump to the next one and come out and around like a letter E, and out, around. And what I'm doing is that if I go up like this, is that I'm actually using and coming down halfway through. So I'm going down, so I'm just going in and out, and I'm just circling the loom just like that. And I want to go like that all the way till I get back to the same one that I started with. See how faster the yarn guide can make this go? So I want to wrap that, and now this is the casting on process. So now in order to loom knit, you need to have one over top of the other. So now what I want to do is that I want to go again and circle around. Okay, so now I'm going to stay up toward the top of the peg because this is the stitch that we're going to go over. Okay, so stay toward the top and go all the way around like that. Now the advantage with using the Pipsqueak yarn is that because it's thick, you don't need to double wrap it, so we only have to wrap it once like this for every rotation. And I want to come all the way back to the one that we started with. Okay, we want to wrap that one as well. So that one in fact will have 3 pieces on it. Okay, so to make it easier, just take the first one only, and the first one is always the tough one to go over. Okay, and now I want to take the bottom. So if you're loom knitting, I find that it's easier to go in this position, so it's easier to go to my right, if that makes any sense to you. And so I just want to take the bottom, and you'll see this was a lot easier to pick up. Bottom over. Okay, bottom over, bottom over. This is how easy loom knitting can be. bottom over. So now that I showed you to do that, I have a technique to do, because you're going to have to move these partially down as you move up to the next row. So what I just do is I pull over and I just turn it, and I use my thumb and I push. Okay, so pull and push, pull and push, pull and push. Okay, and so I kind of circle it in my hands like it's a battle, or like it's a boat rudder, like on the back end of those steamboats, like the Mississippi steamboat idea, and I just rotate it in my hands just like so. So this is the casting on process to be able to start your work, and this is called the E-wrap. So what we're doing is we're starting off in the brim area first of the hat, and we're going to work our way all the way to the top within this tutorial. An actual hat takes about 45 minutes to make. From start to finish, you'll find that you can zip through these crochet projects, or sorry, loom knitting projects really quickly, and it's really not any. It's not very difficult. So now we're all the way back around, and so now there's nothing more to loom knit. You only have one on there. So we want you to put it down, and on your sheet of paper, like you had, okay, I want you to check off from 1 to 10. I want you to check off number 1. So number 1 is now done. So all I need you to do now is that we need to re-wrap again. So wrapping in the same direction and then knitting in the other. Okay, so let's get this ready, and I'm just going to zip all the way around. I'm staying toward the top of the peg like I was before, because you are going to be just knitting with the bottom going over top of this particular stitch. And I go all the way until you're to the right of the peg. That is the first one that we're going to knit, and the reason for it is that you don't want this to all fall off, because if I let this go, it's all going to jump. So we don't want it to jump off. We take the bottom over the top, which is the hardest one because of the tension, and I kind of use the needle to push it down, and now I just go and knit again. Okay. You will notice in tutorials that a lot of my competitors online always push up. So what they do is they tell you to turn it like this, and they tell you to get up underneath and push up like this. What an inconvenience I find that to be. Use the weight of your arm and the pressure of your arm to naturally pull towards you. It makes it so much easier. I have taught hundreds of people how to loom knit, and everybody, well, the majority say it's just so much easier to do it the way that I show, instead of having to use the weight of your arm to push up and to be more refined. So this way you could just dig into the groove and keep going at it. So this will, when I get back to the starting point, which is very obvious when you get there because there will be nothing to loom knit over, is that you've just completed number 2. Make sure the string was actually wrapped around the string, and I could see that, so I want to make sure that we have control of this particular string. Okay, and so now we're back at the start again. So everything is now pushed halfway down because of the way that I showed you, and now that is number 2, so check off number 2, and now what I want you to do is start off with number 3. So let's begin row number 3, okay, and again we're just here, okay, right next to it, and we just want to jump. So I'm always going to, if I'm right-handed, I'm going to wrap toward the left, okay, and so let's do that really quickly. So basically I want you to now go all the way to row number 10, finish row number 10, and we're going to meet back up, and we're actually going to do the fold to make the brim of the hat. Okay, because the steps that you can see from now from 1 to 10 is going to be exactly identical to what I'm showing you. So why don't you do that, and we'll meet back up after we finish row number 10, and I'll show you how to make the brim of this hat. When we do the brims, you're going to notice that the brim is going to be permanent because we're going to knit it right permanently into position. So let's meet back up in a little bit, and we'll see you then. Welcome back, and we just finished row number 10, and now we're ready to do the fold part as per our instructions. And this is what your project's going to look like at this point. You can see that it grew really quickly and it's quite nice. So now we're going to create the permanent fold that will appear, and this is part of the brim. First thing that you need to do is that where you finished off over here, you got to make sure that it's actually going to come out, the yarn is going to come out there. Okay, so there's where the anchor is. This is the last one that you wrap. You want to make sure that comes out first. The second thing that you need to do is that you got to look for the straggler that you started off with and make sure that you have control of that. So what we need to do is that I need you to really look carefully, and you're going to start seeing a spider web idea is going down. So in between the pegs, these gaps are forming. Okay, and you can see these a lot better when it's not Pipsqueak yarn. And I need you to pull down, okay, so that you get all the way to the bottom, and there will be only one string. Why is there one string? Because when you were wrapping around, you only had one string in between each of the pegs. So the very bottom one should only have one string. So I want you to grab the straggler, just like that, okay, pull down. Okay, so you can actually see what is going on top. Okay, so in this case it'll be a green. Okay, that's on the bottom here. And I want you to put the straggler so that it appears on the inside. And I want you to take that last one, you either use your fingers or your pick, and just put it up on top of the peg. So put it over top, just like so. So now you'll have 1 and 2, just like you did before. So the very next one here, if you're looking very carefully, will just be folded up top, like right in front of you. It'll just be right there. Okay, that's actually the straggler. So because the straggler is white and this is white, the next one is literally just right on top. Okay, so just following it. The next one here. Okay, it's right there. So it's just right in front of you. Hopefully you can get a good idea with that. So you're just looking for it. See? And now that you've done a few more, you can actually start really seeing that the pattern. And you can use your fingers too, so you just grab the last one. So what happens if you don't grab the peg right at the very bottom? It doesn't really matter too much. If you're off by one peg when you go to start, it's not a big deal. So because this yarn is really quite loose and very airy, it's just as easy to use your fingers to put this on top of. So you're just grabbing each one. Maybe I should use the pick just to make it easier. And it's just the one just sitting right in front of you. Okay, and it gets easier to identify as you're going along. And you know, I'm not necessarily being able to see it, I just know where it should be, so I'm just sticking my hook down and just placing it over top. So a lot of people don't like the way that loom knitting looks when you're first starting with it. It actually creates a little bit of a roll. So this is a really great way to get your finished work to be even as possible and to look as professional as possible. And you can even do this technique when you're doing afghans on the DA Looms Afghan Maker. I actually did that as well, is that I just did about 6 rounds and then I folded it up and put it over top so that it prevented it from rolling. So the very last one is right there. Okay, so this is what it kind of looks like. This is the fun part, I think. So we're not going to be knitting this revolution at all. Okay, and what I want to do is that I want to start and knit like I was normally, but I'm using the bottom that was already there, and now the one that's on top is what is been put over. And you're just going to want to use your thumb and make sure that you do push it back. It's a little loose, okay, when you go to start, and so you just want to make sure that your thumbs kind of prevent more stuff from falling off the pegs. So you just want to knit this as normal, and when you're done this will be the fold. And so you can check that off on your list. And let's meet back up where we're going to start between 1 and 15 again. And this now, you should really think about this. We're almost halfway through our project already, because there's only 15 more revolutions, and you're done. And we're going to be finishing off the top. Okay, in this case here, I missed a peg. So what happens is that I can just put 2 across. Okay, and it's really no big deal. This is on the inside of the hat. Okay, so whatever you do here, it won't actually appear on the outside. the outside of the hat is actually between the ring and the pegs on the inside there. So let's meet back up and we'll start row number 1 to 15 again, and we'll do the casting off process, and you're good to go. And again, this project is very simple and easy to follow. So now let's grab our styler pen or our yarn guide, and we are now exactly where we should be, okay, because we made sure that was coming out. I have actually done this brim where I have forgotten to do that and it's coming out somewhere else because I folded it up on top of each other. Make sure that it is out. If that happens to, make sure you notice that before you actually do the knitting process, because you might be very upset with yourself. So to do level number 1 again, we just wrap as normal, and I want you to continue to do this and then knit and check it off on your list, and I want you to go from 1 to 15 rows, just exactly what you see here. Okay, so we'll leave that to you, and let's meet back up on the top of the hat where we'll cast off together, and you will be almost done at that point. And welcome back, and now I've finished row number 15. So this is what it will look like at this point. This is the top of the hat up here, and this is obviously the brim, and it is extremely soft. You know, any baby's going to be lucky to be able to own one of these. So this is where it's coming from the yarn ball, and I want to cut about 2 feet away. Okay, so this is the string that's leading up, and we can now just take off the styler pen just like so. So now grabbing your darning needle, we're going to feed that darning needle on. Now these needles are usually provided with the kits that you buy them in the stores, so that's something you don't have to buy extra, and just wean it through just like that. So the easiest way to do this is that you got to remember this is kind of like a clothesline, and so we just want to collect each one of the loops. Do not come up from the bottom or the top of the peg just like that. Come in from the bottom. Okay, and the reason for it is that if you come up from the bottom, because we have twisted around like an E, when you come up from this angle here, it's going to cause it to twist, therefore you can't pull anything back together, so we have to come up through the bottom. And using the needle, just pull it off the peg and pull through the yarn like that. So through the bottom, up and like that. Isn't this hard? So what's going to happen is that this yarn is going to get shorter on the needle, and that's because your yarn, your project won't contract until you get through halfway. So up through the bottom. And also the reason why I'm turning it upside down is that the straggler will just stay out of the pegs. If you tried to do this the other way, what's going to happen is that the string is going to capture into the pegs and going to cause you to swear or something silly like that. Okay, so this is the casting off process is actually so simple, and this is one of those great little projects as I'm weeding it off. It's a great little project for using up some of your yarn stash. You don't use a lot of yarn with these things, as well as 45 minutes like to do a hat start to finish, so it's not a lot of time investment as well. So as you're getting more than halfway, you can start pulling it a little bit more and it will start bunching up, and we have no problems with that. You're going to find when you go to pull on this string is that it's naturally going to bunch up on its own, and when it naturally does it, it's actually going to form the perfect top of a hat. You could do a pom-pom for the baby's hat. I'm not sure I'd recommend it. It's cute, really super cute, but if your baby's going to be wearing this while lying down or whatever, the pom-pom could be an intrusion to the baby's headspace. That is your call as a creator to do that or not. Okay, so I just got to pull. And so now I'm almost finished. I got 3 more to go. 2 and 3. Get the final one up, and the loom now will come off. And just get that final one through. So here is the top of your hat, just like that. And using the string, just gently, because the string could snap if you pull too hard. So just kind of using your fingers to kind of like move stuff around, and it will just naturally pull into itself like that. So now what I just do is that I come on the, so this is where it's coming out of the top of the hat. I jump it over to the opposite side, stick in the needle, and sticking all the way through, so it's coming back toward me. Okay, and so now I'll just turn it. I turned it, what did I turn that? 90-degree angle. I'm now going to come up to the other side and back all the way across. So this is where it's coming out. Okay, so I just want to come across. And I do this about, oops, my yarn fell off, which is okay. I'm going to put that back on. I love these little darning needles. They're very easy to feed on if something like this does happen. Okay, so we just want to feed it. We want to make sure the yarn is actually behaving properly and setting into place. It doesn't want to snag onto anything ridiculous. And again, I just turn it 90 degrees and I just go in again. So I do this about 3 times. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll stick in the needle top down, so right from the top going in. I'm now going to take the hat and I'm going to fold it inside out and I'm going to pull it through, and now I'm just going to snag it into the stitches, and we're just going to pull it like this and we're just going to tie it just like that. So now it's tied. We're going to trim, you're going to fold back out, and there is your hat all completed. And isn't that wonderful? It's just such a fabulous little project, really airy, very light, and just really overall super cute. Until next time.